This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.
Welcome in to the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. We're so happy to be back with you again. We're always fired up to get back out there and do this podcast thing. We hope that you're enjoying it as much as we are putting it on together. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Ben Hayes is with us. Ben, how you doing, man?
I am doing great, Travis. It is a good day. It's always a good day when I get to sit right here with you guys and visit a little bit, even if we aren't in the same room. Will and I are. Travis isn't. So,
well, you know, the internet's a great thing. Will, you doing okay?
Man, I'm doing great. Got in a 10.5-mile run last night for the Batify Challenge, and so doing really well.
That has nothing to do with the Batify Challenge, and you know it. We have not told anybody to run 10 miles, but that is nuts.
I was behind on my miles, so I had to catch up. So
I do have a question, Will. Who hurt you? Because the challenge that you put in the email last week, the flower, squatting thing was amazing. And I'm feeling it today. So if you need a leg workout there that will make you realize you're alive, I encourage you to subscribe, to check that out. We could put that out there. But there's going to be stuff like that every week coming at you into your inbox. So be sure to check out benandtravis.com as you've already heard. But we've got a great topic today, and a topic that is hopefully a practical one, just like that's kind of our goal every time that we get together. Ben, you want to introduce what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, right now we have so many people, I guess everybody is getting ready to go back to school. Some of you, Travis, you guys are already back in school, back at it. And so we got some other groups that are getting ready to go wholesale back to school. Some groups are doing some one day and then maybe a few days virtually and then going back for another day. So I don't know where our listeners are all at and what all's happening, but, regardless, everybody's kind of getting ready to go back to school. And if it's not enough to have been a little anxious about normal back to school, we now are, embracing going back to school in the middle of a pandemic. So we're assuming that there is probably a little bit of anxiety swirling around parents and kids and teachers. And so we wanted to just address that for a few minutes on this podcast. And you guys, all of us, I work somewhat with, I work as a counselor at Mars Hill. Will is married to a teacher, and Travis is married to a teacher and is a teacher himself. So we've all got that kind of school connection anyway, and we just felt like this would be good. So, you guys speak to it. What do you think as far as like y'all's families? How's that looking for you?
It's looking pretty crazy for Lindsay, my wife. She is a 3- and 4-year-old special needs teacher. And so she runs a program out in Colbert County, and it seems like every day it's a different format.
Yeah.
They'll come up with a format, then they got to change that format. And so what I've seen is just a lot of unknowns. And even our kids in the youth group here at Highland Park seem to be the same way. It doesn't seem to just be teachers, but also students, parents, the whole family. So it's really just running from administration all the way down to families and students. And that unknown seems to be a pretty scary thing in how things are going to work. And then on top of that, just it seems like a variable every single day. The unknown, but also with that unknown, they know that a change is going to happen pretty often. And so that's one thing that's really stressing a lot of people out.
And with Lindsay's work, working with special needs, and she does a great job with that, that's even more so because that's already a job that you never know what the day is going to bring. And then you add onto it this, and and trying to keep kids in general social distance. I mean, I went with Michael Rosenblum out to eat the other day, and his daughter comes walking up to me while we're at the restaurant, and she goes, "COVID," with her little fingers like this, and I went, "That's what school's going to be like."
Yeah,
they're going to be kids.
I've seen it
walking out and going, "Here we go." Yeah. So anyway,
I've seen it. You know, I always say I'm more of a PE teacher this year than anything. I have several PE classes, and they're all elementary, and it's all, hey, keep your gloves on, keep a block of the bleachers in between you. We're going to play kickball. Do not touch the ball. No one's playing defense. We're just going to keep however far you can kick it. Those are the points. And so, you know, the most flexible teachers in the world are special needs teachers. And then you throw in the fact elementary special needs teachers, and wow, you know, you just have to be flexible. You have to be able to roll with the punches. But even with that, like being said, in normal circumstances, there can be some anxiety there. But then you throw in the, hey, don't touch your face, don't touch so-and-so, don't, you know, and it just becomes something that if you try to tackle it all at once, can be completely overwhelming. And so hopefully with this episode, we'll have some practical things and maybe help in that aspect to kind of be there alongside you, be on your team, and talk about some things that might help.
Yeah, and I think you know, as we get into the episode, we're going to share some things, but I don't pretend to know everything, and Travis doesn't pretend to know everything, and Will most of the time doesn't pretend to know everything. But you know, as we do this, we know that you guys probably have some great advice on this too, especially those of you who are living in this world. So, you know, we've said before, our Facebook group is really about being a tribe and helping each other. And so if you're listening to this and you're not connected to the Facebook group, but you want to be, go in there and give us some advice, give some of the other teachers some advice. So, you know, we want to kind of have that ability and that platform to help each other through it. But we thought maybe there'd be a few things that could help you guys at least get the conversation started. So y'all got anything else before we kind of start into that, Travis?
Let's jump in. Both feet.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So this is kind of, I guess, starting off more just for the kids, I mean, for the parents and the teachers to begin with. And I guess the first thing I would say, and you know, you'll find some of this information in different places. I looked at several lists. Of course, a lot of the things that I already had in my mind, so I thought I'm going to see what other people are saying. And one of the things is just don't let yourself get overwhelmed with it. And I know that sounds simple, but what I mean by that is there's a lot of information out there today. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but there are constantly people posting different things on social media. You know, I keep thinking about what would it have been like in the Spanish flu time. You know, there wasn't social media, and they did a lot of the same things. They canceled church services. They wore masks. They did a lot of those things back then, and they didn't have the social media experts to let them know exactly what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. So, you know, I think right now, maybe one of the things that we can do, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed, is turn it off. You know, turn off all the voices, turn off the social media, turn off the news if you have to. When you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, limit the voices that you're listening to, you know. And I think that for me, that's been one of the biggest things. I don't know about you guys, but it's just like there's days I go, you know what, I can't decipher between this conspiracy theory and this one, or this thought and this one, and I just go, you know what, I'm gonna play it safe with my family. I'm gonna do the best I can, and you know, we're just gonna kind of pay attention to what's going on around us.
I try not to listen to the Facebook doctors, you know, and it seems to be that there are millions of them that are out there. And I know at the beginning of the episode, we kind of joked about, you know, last night I did that 10.5 mile run, but really there's kind of a sense of calmness, you know, in those exercises. And so I would even take that a step and go, you know, turn all that off, but replace it with something beneficial.
Yep.
You know, don't just sit at home and worry. We get overwhelmed and we try to remove ourselves from those situations, but replace it with a good habit. Whether that's, we're always talking about spiritual habits. We love that. We're about that. But there's plenty of other things. Picking up a good book. I know you listen to books. Travis, I know that you spend a lot of time with kids and coaching. Maybe it's volunteering and just trying to help out somewhere. And replace those, I guess, that time where you sit there and get caught up in everything with something that will actually benefit your life. Because I've yet to find a conspiracy theory that has benefited my life somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like that. That's really getting into sort of that next thing is take care of yourself, and there's a variety of ways to do that. Like, as we think about don't get overwhelmed, then, replace it and take care, eat well. Travis and Whitney put together a really great little thing for eating. If you guys haven't connected to that, you can go to our website and get it. It's just a kind of a meal plan to take some of the craziness out of life. And Travis, you may want to speak to that some more, but the exercising, the reading, the sleeping, just simply taking care of yourself sometimes replaces some of that too. Travis, you want to speak some to that?
One of the benefits of getting back on a schedule is I've actually gotten more sleep this week. I know we have a text group going and y'all probably don't think I sleep that much, but this week, actually starting school on Tuesday, I've actually slept more than I did really in the few months that we were off, because it was kind of like everything was up in the air. And, I kind of looked tired, I think, because my body was starving for that rest, but it's really, I've gotten more rest, and it's kind of, where's this been? We want more of it. So, sleep is just a huge part of it, and the working out helps me sleep because I'm really tired. 4.29 miles yesterday I walked, teaching, working, and going to football practice. And boy, it makes you tired. And so when you get tired, it's time to get some rest. God made us that way. I think the verse is Philippians 4:8, to think on those things that are good, those things that are righteous, those things that are pure. And I think you hit it, Ben. Really, we are working with the best information that we have right now. And, 5 years from now, we may look back and go, man, what a mistake. We didn't do what we should have done. But that's easy to say then. And so we as teachers are working with the information that we have present, and we're doing the best we can. I think that's the thing to keep in mind, that generally speaking, people are trying to make it the best way they know how. That doesn't mean it is the best way. Doesn't mean it's the right way. Yeah. We as Christians have a standard, but we also have to understand people are where they are. And just like God is gracious with us and meets us where we are, and he challenges us and pushes us, but ultimately he understands even better than we are what our limitations are. And so it's keeping an eye out for that other person, but also taking care of yourself. Because, like on the airplane, hey, put the mask on yourself before you help other people. You really have to be in good shape yourself before you can really reach out to those who may need it as well. So be your best self by taking care of yourself.
The other thing you're saying too is I know personally I would not switch places with my wife at all. Yeah, I mean, like, there's no way that I want to be put in any classroom. I don't want to switch with any teacher right now. And so I think a lot of it too is what you're saying is just have some patience on people, because they really are doing their best. I know a lot of people are probably married to teachers, no teachers, close friends with them, but there's just a lot of stress every day that they're going through, and they really are just doing everything they can to make life better. And so that grace and patience will go a long, long way.
It reminded me of a passage in 1 Thessalonians 5 that I talked about last night. He says, admonish the unruly, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak. And then he says, be patient with everyone. If you're dealing with that group of people, if you're trying to encourage people, if you're trying to lift people up, if you're trying to help people, that comes with, you got to have some patience. And as a church and as teachers, as whatever role you're in, you're going to be dealing with people who are on both ends of that spectrum. And I know, Travis, you've spoken to having people on both ends of that spectrum. I know people on both ends of the spectrum. I don't have to agree with everyone. Romans 12 says, respect what's right in the sight of all men. So I have to go, hey, I respect your viewpoint, but, I don't have to agree with everything in your viewpoint. But we can still get along. We can still have conversation. Hopefully, that's what we hope would happen with it. But so those are two things. Don't get overwhelmed. Take care of yourself. I think in one of the things coming up, I'm going to talk about this idea of HALT SB: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed, and bored. Those are when we're at our weakest. So there's several of those that are covered in just take care of yourself, get some sleep, get some rest, eat well, exercise, those kind of things are really going to help you here. So, there's stress relievers to go run or to do workouts or to read a book or to take a hot bubble bath or, whatever it may be. Just take care of yourself during these times.
Yeah, and I think that the idea of connection, I think that some of the things we've mentioned, to connect back with these people, it's like you go from working every day with these people, then you don't see them. And it's difficult enough when it's a 3-month break. You don't know what your students have been through. You don't know what their parents have been through. You don't know what your coworkers have been through. And so, that idea of connection, and that's something that Satan hates. That's something that in our world and society today, social media, as much as I love it, it can be used for good. We need to be using every way that we can for good, but it also is the enemy of connection sometimes. We want to break up into our tribes based on whatever belief system, and Satan loves to do that, right? Because if we can disagree on every little thing, then we won't be together. And so focusing on connection, reconnecting with my students, reconnecting with my colleagues, and most schools have in-service. We have a retreat where we go and we don't talk really anything about school. It's devotionals. It's, encouraging speakers. And I think most schools probably have something like that. But going out of your way to connect, once again, thinking about other people once you've got yourself where you need to be. And so, there's a lot of enemies of connection out there. And that's one thing as a podcast we want to be. We want to be a way to connect with people. What do you think of when I say school night dinners? Pretty sure you didn't think healthy, effortless, or relaxed. The back-to-school season is stressful under normal circumstances. Everyone has to readjust to keeping a schedule after a couple of months of the laid-back pace of summer. This year, the adjustment period will be even bigger shock to the system, since many of us have been home for almost 5 months due to the COVID-19 school closings last spring. The readjustment to the faster pace of the daily work and school grind will be stress-inducing for everyone, and new school guidelines like mandatory face masks, temperature scan stations, and social distancing practices may make little ones even more prone to anxiety, even if they don't say it out loud. This year it will be even more important for us as parents to be attentive to our kiddos as we get back to a semi-normal routine this fall, checking in to make sure that they are faring well mentally and emotionally, and helping them process all of the changes they will be experiencing. I know what you're thinking. That's easier said than done. There are so many urgent things that have to be dealt with every evening, like cooking dinner, packing lunches, doing laundry, and homework, that it's easy for the more important things like our kids' mental and emotional health to take a back seat.
Hi, Whitney, Travis's other half here. How about a week's worth of easy weeknight dinners for your family? We've done the planning for you. As a parent, the hours between the end of the school day and bedtime are precious. During the school year, our kids spend more waking hours with their teacher than they do with us. I don't know about you, but I don't want to waste the majority of that precious time in the kitchen. But I still want to provide my family with a healthy, tasty, and budget-friendly dinner. That's why we're giving you a meal plan with a week's worth of quick and easy, almost hands-free dinners for your family, complete with a grocery list. So you can take meal planning, shopping, and cooking off your to-do list. Now you have quality time to spend with your family. You can tend to the urgent and the important things and still have a relaxed, unhurried meal at the table with your family. Go to benandtravis.com/meal plan to sign up. We will send the meal plan and grocery list straight to your inbox.
I think there's one thing, if I can encourage some of the parents that are listening. I had a couple of our youth group members and even teenagers, middle school, high school. Muscle Shoals here had started talking to a lot of their students about the Fellowship of Christian Trojans, and trying to get plugged in there, get involved there, because they know it's going to be a stressful year. They know that things are going to look different. And it's like what you're saying, they were trying to create a group that could just kind of refocus and encourage one another. And so I would really try and push a lot of our parents, get your kids involved in those things. And even the students, go be a part of those things, because you can talk about your disappointments, your frustrations, and maybe allow other people to kind of carry that load as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think that's been the biggest thing with churches is, we've kind of gotten outside of that connection in some ways, and that's hurt a lot of people. And so I think with school, with work, I talk to people all the time who aren't at their office still. They're sitting at home and they're connected to their families maybe a little bit more. And for some that's good and for some that's not so good, but they're not connected with those people who, I think in a very real sense, our work family, whether it's teachers or whoever else, is an important family to us. They're kind of there for some of the other stresses in life. Maybe sometimes they're there to create some of the other stresses in life. But I know, like for Will and I working together, we may not be in the office every day together, but the other night we went and ran, and I can't keep up with the 10 miles, but I'll go with 3 or something with him, and and that sort of thing is helpful to me. So just having those connections outside of home sometimes is really good for us. So I really encourage you guys to do that. I think the really the last thing, at least for teachers and parents, that I've gotten, some of you two guys may have some other stuff too, is just understanding that I don't control everything. And that's a tough one on a lot of levels, not just with COVID, but I'm not in control. I can't control what Will does. I can't control what Travis does. I can't control what the weather does. I can't control what a pandemic does. I know people expect that the president can control whether the pandemic spreads through the United States or, gets in from another country or whatever else. But, there's certain things we don't have control over. And understanding that is huge. I share with people all the time, and I've worked, in addiction recovery. And one of the big things that they push is the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to change the things I can, to accept the things that I can't, and the wisdom and the courage to know the difference. There's some things I've got control over and some things I don't. And so I guess, what are some of the things, guys, that we can control?
I go back to when I was getting out of the hospital, and my immune system was low, and I was wanting to go back to work, really wanted to go back to work. And, immune system going into a school with all kinds of germs everywhere is not necessarily ideal. And, one of the things with my kids still being in preschool at a different school, that they told us the day that I left the hospital, they said, hey, here's some things, take your shoes off, when you come in the house, whatever you've tracked through that whole day, and I've heard pre-Ks are like Petri dishes, because kids bring in stuff. And so we got them in the habit of taking their shoes off. And so they're not bringing everything that they've been through from school into the house. And so we have a little box beside the door that we keep all of our shoes in. And so that's one thing that helped. When I went back, I actually wore gloves, and I know it looked weird. I had a mask on the whole time. I had gloves, my hair was gone, and, I'd wear long sleeves and all those things. And, I know it seems a little germophobic, but when we brought the kids home from school, we immediately gave them a bath. It was the first thing they did was they took a bath. We washed their hair, put their PJs on. They were ready to go for the rest of the evening, and so, those are just some small things. I know the gloves, everybody kind of makes fun of that, but, they're really disposable. They clean just as well as your hands, as far as I know. I'd use hand sanitizer on them and go about that. And then I would take them off and throw them away before, as I walked in the door in the trash can at my house. So, I changed them several times throughout the day, but those are just some practical things that they told me before I left the hospital. Here's good ways to, protect yourself from catching anything that you might not be prepared to fight off.
Well, I think the key to that is, and that's the answer to the question, is you can control you. You can control what you do. And so it's not, I can't control what other people are doing. And I know some people, all of us have probably had somebody at Walmart go, "You're standing too close," or, whatever. And I can control that, but I can't control what they do. I can't control if somebody else is that way. I can control what I do. I can influence the people around me, the kids that are around me, the kids that live in my house. And so I can do that. I can know the symptoms. I can know here's what the symptoms are. Here's what I need to be aware of. If I feel those things, I can go get tested. If I feel like I might be coming down with it, I can stay away from people. I can know whether I'm, having a major event or not. I can know those things and I can be aware of it, but I can't necessarily prevent other people from it. So I think that's the key, is just I control this little part of the world that's called me. And, other than that, if we start worrying about the other things that we can't control, that's where anxiety, I think, really takes over.
Yeah, for me, with what can I control, the first two things that popped in my mind were I can control my attitude.
Yeah.
I can control if I wake up, and I try every morning to wake up and go, okay, today's going to be a great day. Regardless of what happens or what changes, I can wake up with the attitude believing that today's going to be good. And that kind of sets my day off in the right motion. And then after that, kind of like what you said, I can control how I respond to someone. Mm-hmm. And some people are going to be jerks, and that's just, it's going to be the way it is.
It's just life,
But I can always choose the way I respond to people. And I think the other thing for me is I can be a little realistic. I think right now there's a lot of unrealistic things that are going on. I can know that there's a pandemic that's happening, but I can also kind of be realistic about that. And maybe I'm the young, ignorant one, on this show. But I try not to let Washington, D.C. control how I live my life.
Yeah.
Whatever they're saying out of there, or Los Angeles, New York, all these media places, doesn't really control how I choose to live in Muscle Shoals.
That's right.
And so I really try and go, okay, God's going to control the way I live, and I'm going to make the decision to live for Him, but also understanding I can take some precautions like what Travis is talking about and just try and be the best that I can be.
We've probably all seen those little circles that was like, I believe the media is blowing things out of proportion. I believe that the pandemic is real. I don't remember what the other ones are, but it's like they're all touching in the middle. It says, you can also be here.
Yeah.
You can believe, hey, some of this is blown out of proportion. It is a real thing. They're using it for political reasons. There's all those things. And I kind of believe every bit of that. Like, I believe it's real. I believe there's a threat. I believe we have to kind of take care of ourselves. But I also believe it's probably blown out of proportion for a lot of different reasons. So
I'm sure an election year doesn't help that.
That's probably not helping much. But, we won't get too political on here.
As Dr. Flatt
lose some
said when we told him about what a colleague had said about him, he replied, "Consider the source, brothers. Consider the source."
Right.
And that's really everything. Honestly, consider the source. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to tell you what is what, and that's not what we're here to do. We want to help give practical advice. So consider the source. Don't take what we say and run, oh, that's the truth, unless we're quoting the Bible. But hopefully there are things that you can take and apply them, and they're going to help ease the anxiety of the situation. We want to bring that anxiety level down and help in any way we can. And in that, we would like to talk about some things that might help your kiddos out, maybe some practical things to wrap up the show. And one of those that we have here is, be honest with their age. Try to share with them appropriate things. You don't have to, we don't want you lying, but your kids. And teachers, you spend a lot of time with your kids. You know what they can handle, what they're able to deal with. And so we're not saying, we're not telling anybody to lie, but be honest and age appropriate.
I think that's that's the biggest key is, you don't have to share it. And I guess it goes along with this, but, they're watching you, and I think the age appropriate thing and just simply they're going to follow your lead. So all of the things that we just talked about, I feel like are things that would help kids, help them learn not to get overwhelmed by everything that happens. Help them to take care of themselves. Here's how you properly wash your hands. Here's how you, wear your mask. here's what you do when you sneeze, and just helping them do the right things, but not get so wrapped up because, some kids have high anxiety, just like some adults have high anxiety. And so I think you have to help them with the same things that adults do. You sort of help them in the mindfulness techniques that we've sent some stuff out on our email list and, things like that. It's just help them by showing them. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do for kids.
I think for me, being in youth ministry right now has probably changed a little bit since you and Travis were leading youth groups and things like that. It seems like it's because they're older. It seems like every kid right now is already stressed out about everything outside of the pandemic anyway.
Yeah.
And so one thing is just have a little patience with them. I have kids come to me all the time and go, man, my parents are just drilling me to do this and this and this. And now my parents are stressed out about their work. They're stressed out about me. So it's almost like I'm having a lot of conversations with kids from all over this area that are going, I don't know what to do. And so I would say, man, take some time at home at night and just sit down and listen.
Mm-hmm.
I know last night I ran past Ben's house to grab some water because I was about to die. And him and Jackson were just watching some movies together, and that can go so far. Is to just spend some quality time not worrying and being so stressed out about everything that's going on. And that will change a lot of teenagers' lives and make a big, big difference.
And probably on a normal everyday without a pandemic time, that connection with your kids is huge. And so I don't always do it well. I lead a pretty busy life sometimes. But that's one of the things I tell people in counseling a lot. Look, we schedule work, we schedule church, we schedule doctor's appointments, we schedule golf outings, we schedule all sorts of things. I put in my schedule days I'm going to hunt and fish so that I have them set aside. Why can't we schedule family time? And a lot of people go, well, we just got busy and we just didn't get anything done. Why can't you put it in your schedule? You schedule everything else. And maybe eventually you don't have to schedule family time. But if you're that busy, and I know there's some of Travis's parents at school and others, your kids play 4 sports and they're in, they're working out and they're doing piano recitals and, they have 1,000 different things they're doing. At some point go, hey, Thursday nights are our night. Tuesday nights are our night. And that goes a long way for helping kids not feel overwhelmed when they can just have some time with parents that's just kids and parents. It's not, we got to run somewhere. And I'm somewhat the pot calling the kettle black, but we really do try.
I think that's why one of the reasons we did the 28 days of focused living was to put it, some people out there are checklist people. My wife is one of those people, and I'm very thankful for that because I'm not. She's detail oriented. But to put that in people's minds that today is a day, and here's the thing, at least one thing that I want to do to either take care of myself, lift up my teammates, my colleagues, and spend family time. And, those are just kind of goals that you can look at. Those are just ideas that we have. Once again, we have the Facebook group that we'd love any input that you have. Fellas, I appreciate this time. It means a lot to me. I may come back and listen to it several times because obviously we've started school. Go check out the meal plan. We put that together to kind of take 2 or 3 things off your list for maybe your first week back to school. Check it out. Let us know your feedback on that as well. Any, as I say to my students every day, any comments, recipes, or vacation tips we would love. in the Facebook group. Ben, you got anything else?
Nothing to speak of other than just thank you guys that are listening for listening. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for being a part of our Ben and Travis family. Thank you, Will, for hanging out with us again and helping us out with things. And so, Will, you may have a couple of closing remarks, but
just wanted to make sure you knew benandtravis.com/meal plan. That's where you can get that meal plan at. You'll get it in an email. I was looking at it the other day. Super easy stuff that even I can cook. And if I can cook it, anybody can cook it. So benandtravis.com/meal plan. And that's where you can get that free list of meals.
Well, if you're back in school, you're distance learning, whatever the case may be, if you're educating our kids, we sure do appreciate you. We love you. We think you're awesome, and we know that you're at the front line of this. And once again, reach out to us on that Facebook group, the 50-Day Batify Challenge, and let us know how we can pray for you and how we can encourage you. But other than that, we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.